So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be talking about the Jupiter in Taurus. Now, this is going to be kind of an intense video because it's not only Jupiter moving into the sign of Taurus, but also we are going to be talking about the Jupiter North Node and the Jupiter and Uranus cycle. So we've got loads to cover. I might be doing a separate video on Jupiter in Taurus for the 12th sign, but let's see how the time goes because I don't want people to be kept around for too long. If you do like the video, please press like and consider not liking it because I spend 3 days at least to kind of prepare these slides and material. One of the reasons is because, fair enough, Jupiter in Taurus happens every 12 years, but Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, Jupiter and North Node conjunction does not happen every single day, not especially in the sign of Taurus. So I go back in history, I check what happened in history, I compare those charts with the current chart. So it's loads of work overall. And of course, I make these so that you guys can prepare for the year ahead. Rather than charging for it, I just release it free of charge so that everyone can reach them as much as they would like to. As usual, I always recommend listening to the whole webinar because we don't have time to talk about each signs individually, that in much depth, but you can put this information into the house where it is. So how we will work today is that we're going to break down what Jupiter actually represents. Briefly, I'm going to break down what Taurus represents. And then I'm going to put the information together. And then we're going to talk about the Jupiter and North Node cycle, the Jupiter and Uranus cycle, so that we can make some world predictions as well as you can pay attention to some of the individual moments as well. Before we start, I'm starting my 12-week course. Actually, I think it's going to be 13, to be frank, on the signs. Each sign will be about 2.5, 3 hours. I'm going to break it down in multiple levels. And also next month, don't forget, I'm starting the Ultimate Money course, which is going to be at least 12 weeks. And all you need to know about your personal finances through astrology. So if you are interested, check those out. It's on discounted price and definitely you will learn a lot. This is suitable for beginners as well as advanced students. So let's talk about Jupiter in Taurus. I'd like to point out that I think 2020 was a big year. 2023 is also a very big year. If it's not bigger actually than 2020. Why I kind of believe that is because Pluto will be changing sign, goes into the sign of Aquarius. You can find a short video about that on my YouTube channel, which I prepared last year, but I'm going to make a longer one anyway. Jupiter is changing sign. Saturn will be changing sign. Saturn in Pisces, I've already done that webinar, so you can check that out. Also, we're going to have Sedna changing sign, moving into the sign of Gemini after spending at least 80 years in the sign of Taurus. Huge change. And also we've got this Venus star point, which is changing sign, happening actually today on 29 degree of Libra, and it hasn't happened for a long time. Basically, every approximately 120 years, the Venus and the Sun conjunction happened in the sign of Scorpio. Actually, it's longer than 120, almost 150 years. And now it's shifting into Libra. So we've got so many changes going on. The nodes are going to change sign too in the middle of the year. So we're going to have big shifts in the world. And that's my intention to kind of get you ready, because getting ready is already half a success for that. Subscribe to the channel, go on my Facebook, go on my Instagram. I usually post extra information about daily transits, some articles. You can check those out too. So what is Jupiter? I mean, whenever we look at a sign or a planet, we need to look at from a positive and from a kind of like an opportunity way as well. So Jupiter is the planet of positivity. It's the planet of optimism. It has got a dream, and then it's kind of motivated to reach that dream. Whatever Jupiter touches in the chart, it actually magnifies it. It makes you kind of like an opportunist, which can lead to growth, but also plenty of disappointment as well. Jupiter also represents, in a way, abundance in our chart, but not just necessarily abundance through money, but also through experiences as well. So that's a very important statement I wanted to make, that it's not just about money in a financial way. However, in the sign of Taurus, of course, it's going to talk about money quite a lot. Jupiter is a hot and wet planet, so it has got so much to do with fertility. It wants to create something, and it's quite a productive planet as well, kind of like mass production, if you like it. Also, Jupiter connects to children, kind of like the essential significator of children. But does it really talk about like giving birth? Not necessarily, but anything to do with the children industry, in a sense that, we've got the teachers, and the teachers are teaching the children. Or we've got the spiritual gurus, and they have got students as well, or followers, in a sense. Or it does talk about the parenting side as well, of course, because you create your own children. And if you think about what we need to grow, we always need heat and we always need moisture. We need a little bit of a rain, right? And then after, we need beautiful sunshine so that those flowers can blossom. So that's why Jupiter is connected to something to do with creation as well. The main aim of Jupiter is to share its wisdom with others. This is how I did that. If it worked for me, it might be working for you as well. Jupiter trusts others, believes, it has got faith in something. It's the planet of moral code, really. So typically, if Jupiter promises something, it wants to actually deliver as well. Sometimes it promises a lot more than it actually can deliver, though I'd like to mention that too. Just a few positive meaning of Jupiter. Now, some of the negative ones, which can actually lead to greed, because we want so much, and kind of like it's a never enough type of feeling what it comes with it. Sometimes it over creates things. It creates too many in one go, and then kind of like it never goes away, right? Or let's say you make so much coffee, and then you are the only person who makes coffee at home, right? And then eventually I'm going to drink the same coffee for a very long time. So whatever Jupiter touches, we tend to overdo that. So look at the position where Jupiter is going to be in your natal chart, and then you might want to be making sure that you put a stop to it. We don't gonna overdo. So for instance, it touches your moon, you might become overly emotional. It might touches your Venus. It might touch your Venus. You're gonna overeat, for instance. Or you're just gonna be having, I don't know, 10 boyfriends and girlfriends at the same time because you're craving for love so much. Okay? It can be too trustful, and people take advantage of Jupiter. And then after a while, Jupiter gets tired of it. And it says, you know what, screw you, I'm not giving you anything anymore. So all those type of things. And also from a moral code point of view, what could really happen is that we are stubborn about our moral codes. A very important thing, because obviously Jupiter has got this 12-year cycle. So every 12 years, it's going to go into the same sign. So we have got Jupiter moving into the sign of Taurus next year, 2023, in the middle of the year. Previously, it was there in 2011, 2012 as well. So one of the ways how you can work with Jupiter is that you might want to be looking at what was going on 12 years ago in my life. This is what we call kind of like as the Jupiter return. Now, the Jupiter return is very much about kind of like a learning curve. I think Jupiter is a little bit overestimated in a sense. We tend to be kind of expecting a lot from Jupiter, but that's the nature of Jupiter anyway, so it's normal. But I think we need to take it down a notch. Just because Jupiter tends to be in contact with the same point every single 3 years, right? So every 3 years, it's going to be squaring your rising sign. 6 years, 3 years later, it's going to be opposing. 3 years later, it's going to be squaring again. And then 3 years after, it's going to be conjuncting again. So therefore, when you are working with Jupiter, what I recommend doing is you might want to be looking at the Jupiter return moment. And you might want to actually erect a chart for that. Let's say I had Jupiter return in 2019 on top of my head, beginning of February. So I want to be looking at what was going on in my life around that time. Obviously, you might want to be looking at the house position and so forth. I started a new career. I started working with Lada. So that event is kind of like unfolding for 12 years. So you might want to be looking at the phase of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter natally is in Sagittarius in my chart. Now it's going to go into Taurus. So there is going to be an inconjunction happening between those two. So this is the second phase. Basically, we're talking about the progressed moon phases, and there are 4 major phases. We've got the first, from the new moon to the first quarter moon phase, which is about gaining experience, but we are very inexperienced, really. It's very much about planting the seed, and then after we planted the seed, it's going to start growing. There is going to be a sprout coming out of the ground, right? And then eventually it's going to have strong roots. So the first quarter moon phase of the Jupiterian phase as well is very much about, I've been playing around, I'm trying to grow, I'm learning about something. And then once we reach the 90 to 180 degree, which is really much about the visibility is growing, but we also have got a little bit of a crisis situation going on. Therefore, we need to be making adjustments. So in that case, it would kind of indicate that you're going to have to deal with the consequences of your actions, but you are still gaining. So to give you an example, as I said, if you have got Jupiter, for instance, in the sign of Sagittarius, Jupiter is going through currently then Taurus, then you are in the gaining phase, you are a lot more experienced, but there needs to be element of adjustments here. Or we need to look at whether I'm obsessed with something I started when we had the initial Jupiter point. I hope that makes sense. The third quarter would be really about blossoming. We came to kind of to the climax, if you like it, which obviously the danger there that we can fall down easily if we make any type of mistakes. And then we've got the 270 to 360 degree element, which would be really talking about consolidation, a little bit of a reflection, what went well and what's not so well, and we're kind of coming to a closing chapter. So to give you an example there, imagine that natally you do have got, for instance, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, or even Leo, okay? And then now Jupiter moving into the sign of Taurus. So it's going to be the third quarter phase of Jupiter, which is very much about that consolidation. Maybe 10 years ago, I started something. Does it work? Does it not work? And maybe it's going to be happening in your second house. So 10 years ago, I started investing. And now I'm thinking, did it really go well for me? Did I make money? Shall I continue? investing, second house. Maybe I've been spending money like there is no tomorrow. Shall I actually put a break on it? And all those type of things. Or if you have got maybe Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, sign of Taurus, yeah, then you are actually planting new seeds. Most likely you're going to start something fresh. So the Jupiter cycles are all about a learning curve. If you think about it, at the age of 3, when it's squaring its natal position, basically we start to go to nursery school. At the age of 6, it's opposing, we go to school, right? And then we kind of have to learn about the social rules. Jupiter is a social planet. At the age of 9, you know, you are already quite comfortable at being at school, but it's going to be about learning to get better grades, for instance. At the age of 12, we kind of get the feeling that we know everything and we are untouchable, right? And so forth. So each Jupiter phase is gonna kind of represent something a little bit similar. So therefore, we need to look at what stage of your life you are at with your Jupiter cycle. Now, Jupiter is the 5th planet of the solar system and the first of the social planets or the external planets. So basically, we've got 2 social planets. One is Jupiter, the other one is Saturn. And they are actually quite important because Saturn is actually kind of like the counterpart of Jupiter, who tries to drag Jupiter down a little bit so that it doesn't get too excited about things. Saturn tends to be constructing things. Jupiter tends to be expanding things. Jupiter wants to push forward. It wants to be raising awareness. It wants you to experience things. It's very thirsty for knowledge. It wants to travel. It wants to connect different cultural backgrounds and all those type of things. It has got that type of wanting to know things, but it also can become I know everything type of character as well. Jupiter is the planet which is about the ability to evolve. What Jupiter really wants, it wants you to improve your life standards, basically. And Jupiter sees the bigger picture. So it has got the ability to connect dots. It rules 2 signs. One of them is Sagittarius, the other one is Pisces. So the Piscean side of Jupiter, think about it. Pisces is water, Sagittarius is fire, and Jupiter is hot and wet planet, right? So Jupiter has got also the ability to understand others, to see the bigger picture. Jupiter needs to learn that, you know what, I'm not the only one in this society. I'm meant to be stepping outside or stepping away from my ego so that I can see that others are actually surrounding me also. Interesting to look at the symbol of Jupiter, which is right here on the screen. And what you see here is a cross. And then we've got this crescent moon right on top of it. So basically what happens is that the Jupiter symbol kind of indicates the 4 cardinal points of the chart, which is the ascendant, midheaven, descendant, and the IC. And that little crescent moon phase, which is right on top of it, it really talks about the unconscious, okay? But also it talks about your intuition as well. So what happens is that we have got here the cross of the meta, and we've got the intuition here also. So if we put these together, knowledge and intuition, then we actually receive Jupiter, which is about wisdom. So it's about continuously learning about what the matter is and kind of like intuitively coming up to a solution as well. Okay? Jupiter represents, by the way, the justice system as well. That really comes from the moral code. The moral code on a personal level, but also, am I meant to be crossing the road when there is a red light? and all those type of things. And because we are told, we are not meant to, so, Jupiter doesn't always want to cross those lines. It really depends on the moon, which is actually the glimpse is showing here, right? The crescent moon phase. Excuse me. So, who is Jupiter in mythology? So it's good to talk about these mythological stories because it really gives us a little bit more of the understanding of their role. Now, in mythology, Jupiter is the god of all gods, basically, but he wasn't always that. Jupiter, what happened was that his father wanted to kill all his children, and then Jupiter's mom decided somehow to save his life, so he kind of wrapped up stones to disguise, that it was a baby. So Saturn wanted to kill his own baby, but obviously he didn't. And then eventually, Jupiter kind of became the cupbearer for his own father. Anyway, the bottom line is that Jupiter actually managed to defeat his own father, and he kind of sent him away to become the god of agriculture in Italy. Now, he did that because he united the entire family, all children. He rescued all children as well. So we're talking about Pluto here and so forth. And he became the king of all the gods. So now, what does it talk about? The story. The story is that we have got this rigid father, by the way, who was also the god of time and kind of like karma as well. By the way, he followed his own father's karma too. He exactly did the same story. He wanted to kill his own children too. So Jupiter is somehow here to break these rigid chains of time, to kind of get rid of the system which is not kind of working anymore. And this is going to be a very important story, especially because Jupiter and Uranus conjunction will be taking place, which is, by the way, in 2024. So overall, we're going to be talking about a good 2-3 years of prediction today. But I wanted to do that together because I think it makes more sense of talking about both of the cycles together. Now, because Jupiter united the entire family and he shared the kingdom with his sisters and brothers, he gave, Aphrodite something to do with love and all those type of things. So he was born as a natural leader and everyone pretty much loved him. Now, therefore, he acted like a teacher to others and kind of like a priest. And if we kind of think about who a priest is, a priest who wants to find the brightest aspect of the soul, right? Because believing in something is actually very important. Jupiter also talks about faith, and therefore it brings in topics around religion and God and divination in a sense. But also, Jupiter has got this self-inflating ego as well. Oh, I'm invincible. I'm the biggest one. By the way, Jupiter is just a gas giant. It's not really a planet. Important to remember. He is kind of like always in competition with the sun because obviously the sun is brighter than him overall. Now, Jupiter is the planet of the fourth Sapphira in the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is actually means love and mercy. So there is an element of a forgiveness to it as well. And he did not kill his own father. What he did was he didn't forget what he did, but he kind of just gave him a different job role. Jupiter is, as I mentioned, the hot and wet planet, which is unique because he doesn't have a pair. Other planets have got their pairs, such as Saturn and Mercury are a pair, because both of them are cold and dry. Moon and Venus are sharing the same qualities. Mars and the Sun share the same qualities. Jupiter does not share his own qualities with anyone. So Jupiter is unique in that sense, and it does talk about uniqueness too, especially when it's going to get paired up with Uranus, which is the natural significator of uniqueness anyway. So, but anyway, I collected some of the negative notes for Jupiter also, which is about inconsistency. It always gets dragged into something new because it wants to experience something all the time. It is way too interested in everything. Something better always comes around. So Jupiter might have got the issues of finishing something off. We start with full fling and then we easily burn out. So Jupiter does need to learn to kind of spare its own energy. Or Jupiter can be your greatest friend for a while, and then all of a sudden they disappear, and then we don't hear about them for a few years because they went somewhere else, you know. Jupiter can be always dissatisfied with things. So it has got kind of the motto that the grass is always greener on the other side. And when they get kind of defeated, they might not want to stand up or try again and they start something new. Because somehow every single defeat or disappointment proves that the world is too harsh. And eventually they might become skeptical towards others, or they become very sarcastic and cynical as well. And when Jupiter has got nothing to look forward to, because it's a future-orientated energy, then basically it becomes lazy. So it imagines that, oh, I can live a kingly life, you know, I want everyone to be serving me. I just want to do the bare minimum. So these are some of the negative meanings of Jupiter. Now, the other one really comes from the story of Hephaestus, who got rejected at his birth. So basically, Hephaestus was the son of Zeus and Hera. Obviously, we've got the king and the queen of the Greek gods. And he was a little bit like, he had funny feet, basically. And that's why he got rejected. And he became a blacksmith. He was doing sculpting. He was a great craftsman, basically. And what happened was that he got completely rejected by his own mother, and then he had to be fleeing away from the Mount Olympus. And eventually he made this trick on his own mother. He created this beautiful throne. Hera didn't know that it was his son, her son, by the way, but it was surrounded by invisible chains. So he humiliated his own mother. And what happened was that in order for her to be free, they had to be making an agreement, and the agreement was about a marriage with Aphrodite. But Venus kept cheating on him, by the way. They never had a child together. Kind of was like a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast story, really. So what we learn here is basically when Jupiter doesn't get what it wants, it can become revengeful as well. It gives and gives, but if nothing comes back in return, then unfortunately it becomes a little bit revengeful too, and it takes away things. So that's why I think Jupiter is sometimes overrated a little bit, because we tend to believe that Jupiter just gives. Actually, it does take away when you are not grabbing the opportunities. It lays down the opportunities right in front of you. And if you don't take them, eventually says, you know what, I'm not giving you anything anymore. What's the point? So that's where the parenting meaning also comes. By the way, Jupiter was the parent of Hephaestus. So that's where we've got the parenting side of the Jupiter as well, right? And that's how it kind of connects to children too. By the way, if someone wants to be looking at Hephaestus, then the astrological number is 2212. And typically, a Jupiter square Hephaestus, for instance, can indicate that you're going to have issues with your father. Even opposition and conjunctions can mean that too. Okay, but it also can talk about how crafty you are, and it can talk about artistic abilities. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Hephaestus and Jupiter configurations overall. I just wanted to kind of show you the negative meaning of Jupiter and where does that originate from. Now, it does bring in elements of fear of being a disappointment to the parents, but also the fear of not being accepted by others or being liked by others. So there is this people pleaser side to Jupiter also. And also that I'm not good enough for my parents. I don't earn well, you know, whatever I do is not good for others. This is just not suitable for me, this is not the right work for me, and all those type of things. By the way, Hephaestus was taken care of just random women, really, and he received plenty of love from them, okay? And yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes Jupiter can represent disability as well in connection to Hephaestus, by the way. But there's just another story. Okay, so some of the little stories, what we wanted to know about Jupiter. So before we move on to Taurus, I'm wondering if anyone has got any questions so far. I mean, I just wanted to touch base on Jupiter briefly. I could talk about it a lot more, but I'm not going to do that. I just try to pick the most important ones, what we're going to use today. Any questions? Put your hands up, and then we can kind of cover that. No questions. So let's move forward. Or we are recording. We are recording, right? Yes, we are recording. Great. Okay. So let's move on to Taurus. Now, Taurus is an earth fixed sign. It's a feminine energy. Taurus tends to be quite concerned with love. It's very loyal. It's very faithful. Obviously, it's a Venusian sign, so that's why it's concerned with anything Venusian, which is love, harmony, peace, as well as money. Now, the fixity is actually bringing in the element of endurance, and it's focused on safety. It wants to build something all the time. So a practical tip, you might want to be looking at, okay, where the Taurus cusp is in my chart, because that's where you are having the opportunity to build something this year. If you have got on the third house cusp, then you can build social media, for instance, or you can build a course, which may be paying you well. Or you can build a subscription plan, for instance, and that's going to pay you quite well. Just don't become too greedy, and so forth. So you can look at it with all the 12 houses, but make sure that you look at where Jupiter comes from, what house natally Jupiter is, because that's going to give you ideas of what areas you can build, and also what Jupiter rules in your chart. Now, Taurus is very concerned about making things beautiful, but as well as comfortable. So in what is the best possible way to be comfortable with that area of life wherever Taurus is? So there is a huge danger of laziness with Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. And that's going to be one of the negative manifestations. So you're going to have to activate your motivation. You're going to have to be motivated to achieve something. You're going to have to have a plan. And that's going to be very important. Taurus is about prosperity, fertility. It talks about Taurus is said to be the sign of the earth. Okay, so therefore we can plant something, right? And then it can be fertilized, and then it can grow beautifully. Just you're gonna have to conquer your laziness, okay, or lack of motivation, or whatever kind of it is coming from. Now, possibly it can really talk about increase of wealth or the decrease of wealth. It could talk about being very greedy when it comes to money, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But surely it could also talk about learning about what to invest money into. And Taurus is earth-related things. So therefore, anything which is underneath the earth gonna be a good investment point. Jupiter kind of represents something which we have got plenty of. So Taurus is the sign of natural resources. There is gonna be something which we're gonna have plenty of. We're just gonna have to find that on a personal and on a collective level as well. You can see we've got a question coming in. 2212, yes, Hephaestus, yeah. Okay, so now Jupiter was in the sign of Taurus the very last time between 4th of June 2011 till 2012, June 11th. Currently, Jupiter will be moving into the sign of Taurus on the 16th of May, and it will be there till the 24th of May. Now, I did not put the retrograde periods there. We can be a little bit more precise with that, but that's we're not going to cover that today. Now, because Taurus is a practical sign, it is only interested in tangible things. So therefore, this could be sometimes a little bit of a challenge to Jupiter, because Jupiter is not always interested in tangible things. It has got all the ideas. It just wants to see the results, right? So Jupiter here needs to learn to be a little bit more of a realist, more practical as well at the same time. Definitely one of the biggest messages is that we're going to have to see the bigger picture when it comes to our finances, as well as how much money we spend on things, because Taurus represents the comfortable but luxurious items also. And the increase of spending money might be something to pay attention to. Now, I'll give you an idea. Let's say you had Jupiter return, for instance, in 2019, and then if you were earning loads of money around that time, then most likely Jupiter in Taurus will also give you the opportunity to earn really well, okay? But if you were spending money and you kept borrowing money from others, it's somehow going to bite you back now, because they might ask you to pay them back. So this could be the aspect of expenditure as well as to gain wealth somehow. This Jupiter and Taurus for me is very much about having two types of people. There is going to be the rich and there is going to be the poor. And we're going to see that significantly, most likely. I think Taurus always is goal-orientated, because Taurus is about endurance and getting to the end of something. It wants to finish something. It never gives up on things. So it's very important with Jupiter in Taurus to have clear goals and visions about where I want to be in the next year. We're going to have to learn to value tangible things and assets. Taurus is about gardening, for instance. So we might need to learn to appreciate more of the homemade foods, cooking at home, and all those type of things. Taurus loves anything to do with pleasure. And Jupiter is the planet of waste. So most likely the environmental pollution gonna be a huge topic with Jupiter here. It could actually, Taurus represents the livestock. So most likely the animal welfare gonna be quite a lot. We might be talking more about how much meat we eat or these type of articles to kind of scare you off and all those type of things. The extinctions of animals and so forth, gonna be a huge topic. Taurus is very interested in fashion, art, and food. So most likely, you know what, takeaway business is gonna also grow significantly. Hopefully, it's more on the natural food, by the way, like no food colorings and all those type of things. Surely there is going to be some technological advancements in the food market, especially in 24 when Jupiter and Uranus will be meeting in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is really about, you know what, let's go to an art gallery or let's go to uh, like a food stall, you know, and so forth. Those type of things. Definitely, the another negative kind of meaning of Jupiter in the sign of Taurus is that Taurus is extremely slow and Jupiter is more on the speedier side. So there's going to be a little bit of a debate there. Jupiter wants things immediately and Taurus says, oh, let's do that tomorrow. We don't necessarily need to rush so much. But Jupiter loses interest by tomorrow. Oh, I'm not interested anymore. So missing opportunities in Jupiter in Taurus can be actually a topic. Definitely Taurus is all about, you know, massage and good food, good sex, all those type of things, because it has got its own personal needs. And Jupiter will want those personal needs to be met also. So this is a greedy aspect here. So where we spend money, do we actually need everything, what we actually desire? And all these type of things are a huge topic with this. Taurus wants to build something tangible, and it's very patient about it too. And Jupiter is kind of like this humongous stuff. So most likely, this is talking about building something big. So the vision is going to be a lot bigger. The goals are going to be more far-fetched with that. And most likely, you know, with that Uranus, for instance, I can imagine that the technological advancements are going to grow so much that maybe if we think that iPhone 14 is so cool, in 2 years' time, there is going to be something so cool that it's going to blow your mind type of things. But Taurus also talks about construction, by the way. So this could really talk about things like the buildings are going to be a lot bigger. Jupiter also rules exotic things. So from a food point of view, this could really talk about things that the foreign cuisines are going to grow in certain countries, or we're going to eat something which we have never eaten before, like we're going to start eating cats and, you know, whatever it is. Okay. So I can imagine such things. Someone just said that some people are trying to push eating bugs. What I was actually thinking, because Taurus specifically rules anything to do with nuts and flowers and, you know, these ingredients for the cakes. And I can imagine that they're going to make some bug flowers, for instance, because we're going to have issues with, you know, wheat and all those type of things. Maybe it sounds, you know, too extreme, but, you know, something like that. I can really kind of imagine that. I think with Jupiter, which is about sharing some bits and bobs with others, Jupiter only works in Taurus when we share our profits with others too. So we need to be a little bit more charitable with, you know, with the less fortunate people. And that's going to go a very long way. So Jupiter in Taurus, we're going to look at definitely our long-term financial investments. We are needed to build a stronger self-esteem. We're going to sometimes have to step back a little bit and examining things rather than jumping into something new very quickly. So therefore, the counterpart of Jupiter is Mercury. They are natural enemies. So seeing the details is going to be actually important. And I also put the chart up. Mercury will be in the sign of Taurus around that time. So we're going to have a stellium there. So it's going to be very important to look at the details before we jumping into some investment opportunities. Also, it's going to be about if you want to be building something, either new or building on something you already have. So how to take something further. On a collective level, Taurus talks about the security system. Most likely there is going to be new things such as new passport control, ways of security, or they're going to be a little bit stricter about it. Taurus really kind of talks about the lands. So most likely the way you can purchase a land is going to change too. Maybe more and more countries will be introducing that, oh no, you cannot have a land on your name. You can just have a lease on it or something like that. Okay. But definitely it's all about how secure I feel. And this is going to be a collective theme overall. Now, Taurus is a type of energy who tends to be buying things and accumulating things because they kind of feel like, you know what, if I have got, I don't know, 200 chickens, then at least I've got food for a year. Or my best friend's mom is a very strong Taurian character. She has 2 people live in the same household, her and the husband. They have got 4 fridges full. She never throws anything away because it's going to be good for something. So it's kind of like a collector of memories, but also the collector of tangible things. So Jupiter in Taurus is kind of reminding me of sitting on my own money at home. And I kind of calculate the money all the time. And then I kind of build a castle. So I think the expenditure is going to grow. People are going to buy, I don't know, bicycles, maybe 5 washing machines or whatever it is, because it's going to be safer than having money in the bank. But I'm going to come back onto that and I'm going to tell you why I think that when we are looking at some cycles. Also because it's very much about, because Taurus is a hardworking sign. At the end of the day, it's about an earth sign, right? And earth is about work. It's about having some stability in our life. So some companies will be growing so much. You're just going to have to sniff it around the 16th of May and then kind of investing into that, because that might be making you very rich, or at least a lot more wealthy than you are at the moment. Taurus is about architecture, construction, and these are probably the prices of those will increase significantly. Taurus is food industry. Probably the prices of food gonna be hitting some heights big time. And I think people will want to have a little bit more gardening, for instance, at home. And I just want to kind of mention that. Home cooking is going to be huge, surely. Now, some of the psychological questions what comes up with Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. How do you limit your ways of earning? Because Jupiter is your belief system and Taurus is a fixed earth sign, right? So it's a little bit limiting. It has got issues of getting out of the comfort zone. That's especially for 2024 when Jupiter and Uranus, a new cycle starts. How do you want to boost your earnings? In what ways? So these are just some of the psychological questions of Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. Now, I put up here the chart for you when Jupiter ingresses into the sign of Taurus. And you can see that it has got a conjunction to Mercury and North Node. And we also have got Uranus and the Sun there. So we're going to have a stellium happening in the sign of Taurus. By the way, I erected this chart for Greenwich time. So to kind of have a feel about the collective level. And you can see it in the ninth house. So travel is going to be a huge topic. And those visa matters. Whether the visa is going to get easier to be probably the visa is going to get easier in a sense. You pay, I don't know, $20,000 and then you get visa for 5 years, something like that. Obviously, a ninth house is something to do with justice system, but also migration. So I think migration is going to grow as well, even further, so that people can spend less money and those type of things. We can see that the dispositor of the stellium is Venus, which is in the sign of Cancer. Really talks about homelands, but also something to do with enjoying more time being at home, but also spending more time with the family. So a little bit of an introverted energy here. Both of them, we've got too many feminine energies going on in this chart, if you really look at it. Apart from Moon, everything is feminine, and Pluto as well, by the way. But everything is feminine, which is really about the rise of feminine power, or at the same time being just introverted a little bit more. Kind of like sitting at home and watching telly type of things and spending more time with our friends and family and communities and so forth. But there is definitely the desire there to travel more. Maybe it's kind of telling me that there's going to be some element of restriction happening around travels, slowly but surely. Very briefly, I just wanted to kind of speak about that. Now, also what I've seen here is that just in a different house system, if someone also wants to be, oh, sorry, this is the previous cycle. So what I've done here, because obviously the fact that Jupiter and North Node are conjuncting happens every 6-7 years, really. So it might not sound that big. But what's very interesting to me that the very last time Jupiter and North Node met in the sign of Taurus was in 1929, 7th of May. And we also had a stellium happening in the sign of Taurus. And at that time, Mercury just went direct. So why it's interesting? Because obviously from a history point of view, repetitions are very, very important. I mean, it happened on 21 degree. This time around, the conjunction is going to be happening around 3 degree. Okay, but it's still in the same sign. What happened in 1929? Well, I collected some bits and bobs. The Wall Street crash, 1929. The stock market crashed, which started on the 28th of October. And basically that was the start of the Great Depression in the United States. Shall we expect something similar? Unfortunately, yes. We had the St. Valentine's Day massacre. We had the Museum of Modern Art created in New York City. Maybe it's going to close down. Maybe something is going to happen to it. You know, but most likely, different type of modern art is going to be opening up, especially from 24 onwards, when the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction are going to be happening. This is going to be a period of time when the art is completely revolutionized. Then we had the Vatican City gains independence from Italy. I think someone will step outside of the EU. They're going to initiate that in the next couple of years. So this is not going to be, it's going to be independence in a sense from the EU. Let's see which country it is. I'm going to give you some hints and tips on that too, because I looked up the previous Jupiter cycle. So I might have got some ideas of what country it might be. We had the very first Academy Awards, the Oscars. They were presented. So obviously that's very Taurian and Jupiterian related anyway, because I give an award to someone who kind of deserves it, and it's something nice as well. So most likely, maybe the Oscar is going to get, you know, kind of revolutionized, if you kind of like that. Then we had the German airship, which completed the first world flight. Most likely, there is going to be something similar. Maybe we're going to send kind of like a machine to Pluto or Neptune or something. We're going to make some discoveries around these type of things. And we also had the world influenza epidemic. So COVID finishes maybe, and then we're going to have influenza, flu-related pandemics kind of coming up. Which, by the way, also happened, I think, in 2016 when the North Node and Jupiter met, just in a different sign anyway. So, further events. The stock market had a mini crash, and everyone kind of went panicky and they started selling their stocks. I'm expecting something similar also happening, or everyone will want to buy something immediately. But somehow the expenditure element, buying, keeping, and so forth. Now, ideally speaking, Taurus would be saying to sell is not necessarily a good idea. We just need to be a little bit smarter before we make any type of big decisions. Also, we had the banker Charles Mitchell, who pledged 25 million in credit to stop the stock market slide a few days after that mini crash. And he was called to leave his post because he shouldn't have interfered with the market. So most likely Jupiter is the benefactor, right? So someone who wants to kind of stop this kind of craziness. So most likely kind of like an Elon Musk type of person, you know, gonna interfere with this. Also the steel production, construction, car sales, all these experience some major decline around these. And then after month and month after, they started actually showing some record heights. Jupiter and North Node are both about heights anyway. So something which is going to drop significantly, most likely people will want to sell everything, and some people will make a fortune who keeps their goods around. This is how I kind of imagine that. So definitely the financial market will be fluctuating significantly. And those who might become a little bit more kind of patient, because Taurus is about patience, then I think those people will make very good money. Okay, another thing which we might want to be talking about is the bubble burst, which happened in October, and that was called as the Black Thursday, when the stock prices fell extremely a lot, basically at least about 5 billion dollars of loss. And the investors promised that nothing is wrong and it will stabilize. By the way, it did stabilize. It got stabilized, though. I would like to mention that too. Okay. Also, we had a conjunction in 1893, which was the panic of economic depression in the United States. How interesting. That was also between Jupiter and North Node. Both time the United States got impacted, and it lasted for 4 years. So, and obviously that really kind of brought a political upheaval as well. So therefore there was this political realignment happening in 1896. So I think United States is kind of like a little bit in danger when it comes to some money matters. Obviously, it's affecting others too. Definitely, the desire to have money, definitely the desire to have more fun and pleasure, as I said, is going to increase significantly. But let's see. I also put down here the last meetings. Now, one of the reasons why I did that, because I kind of wanted to see some, if there is some kind of common things. So I started in 1921, was Libra, then we had the Taurus, then we had Sagittarius, then we had Leo, then Pisces, Libra, Gemini, Capricorn. Virgo, Aries, Scorpio, Cancer, Aquarius, Virgo, Taurus, Sagittarius. I'm just gonna give you maybe a minute or so. Do you see anything in common? Do you see any pattern in this list? Because I found one which I kind of found interesting though. If you do see a pattern, then please put your hands up, because patterns are huge in astrology, and it's just very important to kind of find them in a sense. Anyone? Any patterns do you see? If you do so, just put your hands up. No patterns. Okay. Look at that. Mutable sign, cardinal. Mutable, cardinal. Here, mutable, cardinal. Then it shifts to fixed, cardinal. Fixed, shifts to mutable, fixed, mutable. So there is kind of like every kind of four periods, which is about a 22 kind of year cycle, it shifts one modality. So here, what we see is that currently we are actually in a fixed and mutable kind of angle, and previously we were in a fixed and cardinal angle. So the mutable energy really shows that things are actually changing. And then most likely after 2030, things are going to speed up. And my prediction is that this decade is extremely difficult. I think the next decade is going to be a hell lot easier and a hell lot better as well. That's what I'm kind of seeing here. But I haven't done enough research here. I must be honest. I spent a day or 1.5 days on this. By the time I kind of figured out some bits and bobs, the next step would be, to look at with these stuff when there is a shift over. So for instance, it Libra, Taurus, Sagittarius, Leo, right? So here it's not Sagittarius meant to be, it's meant to be actually a cardinal sign, but we had a break. So that period is for some reason a big period because we have got a break there. Well, it started in 1936, obviously finished in 1943. We do know what was going on there, right? Here there is no break, so it follows the pattern. Here there is a break in 1994 and between 2001. So what was going on within that period? Because that's already a break in the pattern too. Because those are the shift over kind of stuff. Okay. And then here there is no pattern, but we're going to have a change in the next decade anyway. I hope that makes sense. If there are some astrologers here and then they want to take it a little bit further with their astrological research, then please do let me know what your findings are. But I find it interesting. Lola, maradj. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so do we have any, oh, one other thing which I wanted to mention, I forgot to put it on the slides, but a little bit of a prediction I would like to make here. I do believe from an investment point of view that the gold is going to be huge next year. I really see some potentials around gold. One of the reasons why I kind of believe that, because we had this gold rush, which started in 1896 and it finished in 1899. And we had Jupiter and Taurus, Jupiter and North Node conjunction in the sign of Taurus. This was called as the Klondike Gold Rush. It was a short period. It happened in Alaska. But I think gold is gonna be pretty important next year. But I also believe that next month, gold is gonna be dropping significantly, which is actually good for kind of investments also, by the way. Just an investment tip there. However, let me mention that I don't take responsibility for your investment. It's an astrological tip. Whether you want to follow it or not, up to you. But I think it's going to be quite significant. I surely will invest when I see next month. I reckon next month gold should be dropping. So if it drops, I know that next year gold is going to be strong, especially in the summer, by the way. Good. Moving forward. The next cycle is Jupiter and Uranus. Now, this is only going to be happening in 2024, April, May time. So, but I wanted to make sure to talk about this because Jupiter will straight away communicate with Uranus anyway. Now, I find Jupiter and Uranus cycle exciting and interesting at the same time. Jupiter cycle is 12 years, Uranus cycle is 84 years. So that comes up with number 7, if I divide them, those two. And number 7 is a Saturnian number. Why? Because Saturn squares its natal position every 7 years. So somehow it does make sense because Saturn is the link between Jupiter and Uranus anyway, if we look at the Chaldean order of the planets. Now, they tend to be making a conjunction every 14 years anyway. It's a little bit of a shorter cycle. Even 14 divided by 7 is 2. So interesting that this number 7 comes up. So I thought it's good to be looking at what number 7 is, for instance, in the tarot cards. And this is talking about war, talking about victory. vengeance, but also it could talk about success. So this is also telling me that we've got this huge success of some and the loss of others. 7, as I said, is a Saturnian energy. So it looks to me that Saturn is the maturation cycle of Jupiter and Uranus. Uranus would be the kind of like modern ruler of the 11th house, which is about social circle, social justice in a sense, but also money made from work. So most likely, this cycle will be spotlighting of how much money people earn. Jupiter is a fiery planet. If we look at the zodiacal circles, the last quadrant, which starts with Capricorn and finishing with Pisces, there is no fire in that energy at all. So Jupiter and Uranus can be sometimes a little bit more on the challenging side. Jupiter rules 2 signs, right? So Sagittarius and Pisces. And the symbol of Jupiter is a centaur, which is half human and half animal. So one of the secrets with Jupiter is that we need to be connecting to our animalistic side as well. So we do need to be looking at ourselves, but also looking at others too. So from a development stage point of view, Sagittarius is the next to Scorpio, right? So Scorpio is about healing trauma, ability to trust others. These are some of the learning curves of Scorpio. So therefore, Jupiter needed to overcome that trauma, needed to trust their siblings, right? Otherwise, and this is what we had to be working on with the Saturn, with the eclipses, which is happening in a few days' time anyway. So it really talks about if Saturn really connects Jupiter and Uranus, and what's Saturn? The Lord of Karma. So which is really talking about an order, a system. If we don't deal with the karma in a right way, then karma is going to come around and bite us in our butts. But Saturn is playing an extremely important role here because it crystallizes Jupiter's vision. Now, why are we talking about that? Jupiter and Uranus conjunction going to be happening in the sign of Taurus, okay? And Saturn will be in the sign of Pisces. So basically, we're going to have a sextile going on between them too. So this cycle will be talking about some huge technological advancements, which on one hand is gonna save the world, if you like it. But people, of course, gonna be doubting that because it's Pisces, and Pisces has got a tendency to doubt, okay, or it has got its ups and downs. Even if you look at the fish symbol, one is going towards Aquarius, the other one is going towards Aries. It's kind of like getting a little bit stuck in between. So we don't always know what to believe because we don't see things clearly. But there is going to be some huge technological advancements, most likely to kind of save the world. Okay, it might be travel related, it might be education related, school system might be changing significantly. But my idea is that there is going to be new currencies, digital currencies, and new ways of paying for goods. And I do believe that the bank system is going to crash significantly. So they're going to have to come up with something new. So I looked at the current cycle. The last conjunction happened in 2010. Then we had an opposition 2017. Then we had a trine 2020, December 15th. And then we had the next conjunction, which is going to be happening 24. Obviously, because a conjunction is the seeding, so we're going to have to look at what was going on in 2010 and what's coming to an end. So that's what I exactly did for you. We're going to come. I did that for you. Hold on, sorry. So what was going on is that we had a global financial crisis happening in 2007, 2008. And because of that, 2010, we had plenty of strikes going on. And it was because of the unequal wealth of people. Actually, it turned out that 1% of the population owns 90% of the earth wealth. So we had the Greek protests lasting for about 2 years. Greece had to kind of sort out their debts, and eventually they had to sell a couple of their islands. So the borders have changed. We had the Spanish protests happening. We had the British student protest happening. If you are interested, what these are about, just look them up, but all around the same topic. And then we had the so-called Arab Spring, which was very much about trying to bring down the Arabic regime. Most likely, this is expected to be repeated somehow. Also, we had the extremism going on in Europe. We had, for instance, this Marine Le Pen became the prime minister in France. So therefore, France might be someone who, might want to get out of the EU, or just something to change around that. Okay. We had this neo-Nazi Golden Dawn movement. We had the elections in Greece. We had Viktor Orban, who became the prime minister of Hungary. I think he's gonna, by the way, lose the next elections, surely. But also Greece and Hungary are in danger, as well as, I don't think France would be, to be frank, but Greece and Hungary might be in danger when it comes to the European Union's placement. Whether they're gonna get chucked out or whether they decide to leave, I don't think any of them would leave. So I think one of them might get chucked out. I also looked at the one before cycle, 1997 and 2010-ish. We had the electric car getting invented. We actually started studying Saturn and Jupiter, and actually we also sent, when Jupiter and Uranus was in opposition, we sent a spacecraft to Saturn. Interestingly enough, it took 7 years to get there. It got there when the opposition happened. Saturn is in number 7. So the fact that we spend spacecraft, the Saturn, it really talks about desire for knowledge, but also kind of like looking at other ways of, gaining information and wealth as well at the same time. So some of the events, what was taking place. Now I'm going to go back because I looked at other previous ones as well. We had a conjunction happening between Jupiter and Uranus in 1975-76, American Revolution. 82-83, the end of American Revolution, the Treaty of Paris, that was an opposition. We had a conjunction happening, 88-89, French Revolution, and that came with the fall of Bastille. Then we had the conjunction 68-69, protests by students, Vietnam issues, rise of civil rights, and the gay liberation. We had the opposition, so basically 82-83 of the 18th century, hot air balloon got invented. 1927-28, fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. 61-62, space travel. 68-69, Apollo moon. So can you see that how much of kind of war is mentioned here, but also technological advancements. And most likely we should be expecting that in finances and food technology as well at the same time. This cycle really talks about capitalism, free market, free movement of people, and kind of like the liberty as well. You know, Jupiter and Uranus, Jupiter really talks about work as well, by the way. But this is something where, you know what, when you ask too many questions, they might tell you, oh, sorry, you know, why are you asking questions? Just do your job. And this is an aspect when people are going to be asking questions. Also, most likely there is going to be a radical change around law, radical changes around religious structures, most likely. So loads of changes are happening here. I also just wanted to share a little bit more about Uranus because we forgot to talk about that. Uranus is the cosmic trickster. It talks about electricity. Most likely the electricity prices will go up significantly. And with Jupiter and Uranus, it's kind of like the entitlement. Most likely, you know, there is going to be a new source of energy as well anyway. Just to kind of compensate that expensiveness at the same time. So some type of breakthroughs. But I tend to call Uranus as the planet of breakdown. So before actually there is a breakthrough, there needs to be a breakdown as well. So the banking system, let's say, for instance, gonna collapse, and then we're gonna pull up something new, which is gonna be even more brilliant than ever. Okay? It's kind of like a little bit of a dying cycle, if you like it. Definitely scientific researches and, you know, the cosmology is going to be huge. This Uranus-Jupiter together is really much about kind of like divination, if you like it, because both of them are future forward. So the astrology should be improving significantly or even spread. This cycle is going to be very important for those who were born with a Jupiter and Uranus conjunction anyway, like myself. I was born with that cycle, so this is going to be very significant. It's going to be happening on my Chiron, actually. So lovely. Aviation, most likely, as I said, space travel. Maybe it's going to be available for more, but also definitely traveling by plane is going to be huge. Both planets rule the sky, Jupiter and Uranus also. Jupiter is the modern, Uranus is the modern ruler, Jupiter is the traditional ruler of the sky. So it's moving beyond belief, but also moving beyond the skies as well. I think also this is the revolution of education, revolution of biology, most likely how the body functions or how things function in cosmology will be revolutionized, and we don't even believe how much it will be. Artificial intelligence should be a huge topic with this new cycle. However, I do like, you know, Uranus and Jupiter. I don't find it so bad in a sense because one is a fiery, the other one is more airy. So obviously that's where the protest comes into the picture because air, makes fire bigger, right? So it's definitely an impatient type of quality also. Uranus in mythology, I mean, it was about Prometheus who stole the fire from the gods to give it to humankind. Basically, he got punished and he was tied to these rocks, and then his liver was eaten by different types of birds. And at night, his liver was always grown. I mean, it grew back. Interesting that Jupiter actually rules liver. So something around, And if I think about what liver is, most likely wine might become a very good investment as well. Just a tip on that, as well as because liver is something to do with like drinking alcohol, right? On one hand. So most likely that should be important. Someone just mentioned here cyber attacks and stuff like that. Surely, Taurus's security system. There is going to be very clever ways of breaking into things, and most likely it will be revealing some secrets also. So the next 2-3 years, we're going to get to know loads of things around money and stuff like that. The craving for freedom. Oh, with Jupiter and Uranus, unfortunately, there is always natural disasters going on. Earthquakes, especially in the sign of Taurus. So that's most likely, I can really imagine with this new cycle. Remember, it's lasting for about 14 years. I think an island is going to disappear, unfortunately. Also, the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus happens every 83 years in the same sign. So it's worth having a look at what happened kind of like 82 years ago, 83 years ago, because that might be giving us a little bit of an idea of what to expect, right? The last time it happened was in 1941. Basically, the official start of World War. I mean, it started in 1939. I understand that. What I meant by the official one is that that's when kind of it became a world war, if you like it, or it became bigger, if you kind of take that. Basically, 1941, we had the Japanese bombing the Pearl Harbor, and then the United States declared war on Japan. And then after Germany and Italy declared war on it. So basically, that's the time when the United States became fully engaged in the Second World War. Do I think there could be a war? I hope it's more protests, okay, rather than anything else. But some type of big issues seem to be coming up. Okay, so on a personal level, the Jupiter and Uranus cycle is about how to become an individual, how you change your way of thinking. Are you stagnant about it, or are you open to the new? Are you stubborn, or are you going to be rebellious about a system, in a sense? Do you have outdated belief systems which you need to leave behind? Have you lost your faith and you don't know what the truth is anymore? Can you see the world more in an unorthodox way, or you just see it black and white? Because remember, the opposite sign is Scorpio. So that black and white feeling is coming into it. Okay. Also, it's about how excited are you about travel? Do you want to travel? Oh, Taurus is very much about the pop culture too. So most likely the pop culture will change significantly. And it's about being grateful for what we have. So overall, I would say that my gut feeling is that the bank systems are gonna be in trouble, and there is gonna be new instead. And I think people maybe keep their money at home more. Definitely Jupiter and Uranus really talks about a philosophical awakening, what you believe in and what you should not be believing in. Jupiter, which is about expanding things, and Uranus, which is community. So the expansion of communities are likely. What I kind of mean by that is that, like-minded people getting together, or having a guru, having your own psychologist and all those type of things. Because this is about knowledge, which we have never seen before. And you're going to have to be open for that. That's why the education system should be changing significantly. It also, Jupiter represents your dreams. So what type of personal breakthroughs you're going to have when it comes to your dreams? Probably the way how we analyze dreams going to change significantly also. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, so it's so much to do with ideas, divine ideas, especially. So predictive astrology most likely will grow. Financial predictive astrology will grow significantly, I would say. Because with Uranus, it's about learning something new, but also something unusual. So as you might have seen, I've spoken about the personal part of Uranus and Jupiter less, just because this is more of a collective cycle, okay, rather than a personal one. But of course, when we are affected on a collective level, obviously it filters down to the individual level as well. So this is how I see this cycle. So I'm just wondering if you guys have any questions, or do you have kind of any ideas of how things should be playing out? Would you add anything else? Because surely you might have got your own intakes on this too. Just hands up maybe if you do. And then after we're going to have a look at the 12 signs as well. We're going to look at the houses very briefly. I'm not going to talk about them so much, but I do want to talk about them a little bit. Just because I think we have got time, and then we can finish that in about 40 minutes. No? Okay. So if Jupiter is transiting your first house, basically it means that you have got a Taurus rising sign. So remember some bits and bobs, right? What are the most important keywords before actually we jump into it? It's about building something tangible. It's about watching your financials, as well as kind of like a little bit of an awakening of your own self-worth. Jupiter is about knowledge. Okay, so in the first house, it's about knowledge around your health, about how wise you are when it comes to your spending habits, what you eat, and all those type of things. It's about thinking how to put your personality into gaining more money. This could, by the way, indicate of promotion, for instance, or something to do with gains through kind of businesses, if you like. Obviously, Jupiter rules your 11th house on one hand, right? Which is about pay rise and promotions and gains through businesses. But also it is testing pretty much your faith and belief system. You might become more religious about something, or just you envision that what would life look like if I had a better self-esteem? How much money would I earn if I had a little bit more? I think it could give you new sources of income as well. It could give you actually kind of like the feeling of having a little bit more of a comfortable life, if you like. Or if you have been struggling with life, at least it somehow gives a solution to your problems. Maybe this Jupiter will want you to be physically or mentally more fit overall. But of course, we tend to say that with with Jupiter in the first house, it can increase the body and therefore we can put on weight. Yeah, okay, true, I'll take that. I also believe that whether you were in a gaining Jupiter cycle, as I explained at the beginning, or it is more about, the waxing phase. So waxing or waning phase, really. I think Jupiter also can indicate in your first house that you want to be having a solid relationship. You might be making some type of plans for getting married. It could also indicate that you just want to have a more successful kind of period in your life, in your work, or you have got a desire to earn more money or economically something more beneficial for you. So it could actually indicate a change of job as well. Or you can be respected or honored for the work you did for the society. That's also a possibility. Maybe it could also talk about a little bit more interest towards spirituality or kind of some social services type of things. Or being more drawn towards investments also. Yeah, pretty much that's what I would say. Okay, Jupiter in your second house. If you have got Jupiter going through your second house, definitely we're talking about wealth and personal possessions. Now, whether you're going to be hoarding things, right? And you're going to kind of collect everything, whatever you can, whether you're going to be spending money like there is no tomorrow, or whether you're going to put a break on it, it really depends on the natal position. But I think one of the message what Jupiter wants you here is to nourish your own talents. It wants you to expand your horizons to how to make more money, to kind of coming out of the box and then seeing new possibilities. Maybe you're going to be purchasing or you're going to have bigger expenditures because, I don't know, you're going to buy a car. Maybe, hopefully, you're just going to be investing into your own talents. Maybe it actually talks about that you want to be applying for a loan and then you're going to get accepted for it. Maybe you're just going to be increasing somehow your self-esteem and you're going to believe in yourself more, or at least that's what you're going to have to work on. Obviously, the dissatisfaction part of Jupiter is very important here. Not being in harmony with yourself, or not receiving kind of like what you dream about, and then you get disappointed and then we get withdrawn a little bit. Overspending, which can lead to financial crisis. And in a way, because Mercury is going to be there too, kind of like mentally being disturbed as well. Remember that Mercury is going to be conjuncting that North Node also. So that might be something which you need to be aware of. I also believe that Jupiter in the second house could talk about how you share your resources with others. It's about the instincts, about what's feel right, what's feel wrong. it's very much about beautifying and making things more comfortable. So you can become very artistic, actually, with this also. Okay, if Jupiter goes through your third house, then it's about learning something new, which might be taking you further in life in the next 12 years. It's about kind of like becoming a student if you like it, but also just make sure of how much information you share with others, because this position can be very oversharing and maybe something gets stolen from you. You can become too generous with your neighbors, you can become too generous with your siblings, and then you don't see that, they kind of appreciate it. Actually, it can also indicate that you're going to become uh, maybe your siblings are, so basically the growth of the extended family, you're going to become an uncle or you're going to become an auntie, or maybe those people are going to be a benefactor in your life as well. Maybe you're going to be commuting a lot more as well, whether it's for work, it really depends on the position of your natal Jupiter as well, but you might be commuting a lot more. I think it could indicate also that you can communicate a lot more about opportunities with others. Maybe some close friends gonna give you some investment tips for instance. Hopefully there is gonna be some improvement the way how you communicate with others, especially if there was some type of trouble with that. Maybe you're gonna be having a lot more confidence to speak about your problems. You might meet new people and you make more friends, and somehow they're gonna put you on the right road. Maybe actually people are gonna be seeking out for your advice a lot more as well. I like Jupiter in the third because in one way it talks about fame. So being famous is a topic with that, but typically in our own surroundings, really. And definitely it's about possible gains through the way you communicate with others. Maybe I would also say that Jupiter in the third in the sign of Taurus could also talk about kind of like your academic, kind of like taking part in a course, kind of like academically growing. Also, it could talk about that your brain is running 24/7 and you're going to have to slow down a little bit. And most likely you're going to be traveling quite a lot. Okay. If Jupiter is moving through your fourth house, it could really talk about that your family is providing you somehow with a fortune. Maybe some of the happiness and prosperity comes from your family life. Maybe it's about buying a property together. Maybe it's about an investment of a property which is going to have a great return overall. Maybe it is about that the family is actually increasing and you're going to have a child, or someone is getting married in the family, but somehow that immediate family, not the extended, but the immediate family is actually growing significantly. Also, the fourth house is the end of matters. So maybe a project is coming to an end. Maybe you actually finishing up a pending project and assignment and it gets completed, and then you have got this sense of achievements overall. Maybe you're going to have to make decisions about whether I want to relocate, I want to move somewhere else. That's a possibility also. And maybe, by the way, this could also talk about something around uh, your father, because it does talk about your father. So maybe your father will get better, or maybe the lifestyle of your father is changing significantly. Maybe it's about renovating your home, right? We're going to be Taurus is about construction in a sense and building. So you might start building your own home as well. Some type of meaning to that family life is one of the key words. It's about creating memories with the family members also, remembering about the good ones. If Jupiter goes through your fifth house, then it's very much talking about the possibility of dating more or to have more fun. Now, this is definitely an overspending house overall with the sign of Taurus. So going out, having good wine, having good food, and all those type of things, but definitely extremely artistic as well. Taurus and the fifth house is very artistic and very creative. So somehow creativity becomes a central topic for you. I like Jupiter here, by the way, because it also feels very optimistic about the future. Maybe you're going to start your own business and you're going to be self-employed, but also maybe your performance is going to be a lot more solid, kind of like making money from your self-employment overall. Yes, I think you can even touch other people's kind of by their emotions. Maybe you're gonna be able to share your own flows and issues of what happened, and then all of a sudden you kind of attract people around you. Also, Jupiter in the fifth house can talk about that you're gonna have a child, or you're just gonna give birth to something creative. Most likely, there could be an increase in the knowledge when it comes to, I don't know, how to raise a child, how to start a business. It could actually, by the way, talk about a promotion as well, because the fifth house is kind of like the board of a company. So it can talk about a bigger promotion also. But also it could talk about you needing to support your children financially, or your children are somehow supporting you also. Most likely, you're going to get attracted to others and you're going to go on more dates. That's a possibility. Maybe finding pleasure in your hobby, or you want to be turning your hobby into a possible profession overall. That's also very, very possible. Jupiter is about luck. And the fifth house is also a lucky house. Especially lucky, by the way, for Venus, but also it's great for Jupiter too. So I think here also there is the need to share your luck with others, but also allowing others to kind of give you an element of a, support as well. So it's a little bit of a give and take for me here. Okay, let's move on. Jupiter going through your sixth house. Hopefully you can focus on your health a little bit more, and then you can see plenty of benefits from that. But there is no cutting corners here with Jupiter. It's extremely important that you are going to be changing something in your life. But also you can see some growth potentially in the work area, but also it could indicate that your daily routines, your daily chores are going to be increasing too. It might be that you're going to be enjoying the work a little bit more. It might be that you're going to start some new routines and then you're going to be enjoying that a lot more. It might be talking about you actually utilizing your skill or your studies. Let's say you studied as a psychologist, but you never worked with it. And then you're going to start utilizing that skill a lot more in your everyday life. And then it kind of gives you pleasure overall. It could also talk about that I'm socializing a lot more with my coworkers or with my employees as well, actually. It might be about that you are giving a service to others, and maybe, you work in catering, you have got a food business, and all of a sudden you're going to be extremely successful with that. And most likely this Jupiter will be talking about the need to hire then someone new too. So, but of course, the dissatisfaction part of that is that I don't enjoy the work and I want to change whatever I do. So getting a new job during this cycle is actually possible. Or I just want to be improving and I'm working towards kind of like a promotion. So maybe it's some type of work training related matters. Watch out, because we can become a little bit maniac when it comes to certain tasks. We can prioritize things with Jupiter in the sixth house, which is actually not necessarily a priority for you, but you enjoy doing them too much and then you don't want to leave them behind. Jupiter, which is the planet of honesty and integrity, and sixth house is a karmic payback. It's a karmic paycheck, really. So here it's extremely important to share, because then you will receive something in return. Okay, if Jupiter goes through your seventh house, it means that you have got a Scorpio rising, right? Then it would really talk about possibly a legal case, and Jupiter might help you to win that case. It might be, a divorce, because Scorpio rising sign does talk about, that we do have got trust issues, trusting in the system, but also that's kind of like the end of a marriage as well, or kind of like the negativity. So this would really talk about possibly just being approved by someone. They accept you, and then you can start building some trust towards others. Yes, it can talk about meeting someone special. You might want to be sharing someone, sharing something with, whether it's sharing your life with, sharing your, food with, and all those type of things. It might be just someone you go for dinner and then you really enjoy that, and then you guys going to repeat that constantly. Yes, with Jupiter, it's possible to fall in love with someone, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to be reciprocated as well. I would like to mention that. But surely some Scorpio rising sign will get married, okay, or will get into some type of business partnership, or there could be some business negotiations, some contractual agreements with others overall, which you benefit from in the long run. Sometimes these benefits are not visible immediately, but then you see at the end that, oh, it's lucky for me. Usually, if we start a relationship with Jupiter in the seventh house, it is said to be kind of like a lucky one, or quite an exciting one, especially at the beginning, but maybe for just 12 years, or maybe for just 3 years, when Jupiter is starting to square, but the 3 years can be full of adventure overall. This is a period of time when we can sign, contracts with others. We can actually even do settlements in legal matters, and so forth, or just to kind of solve a legal dispute with someone. Also, when Jupiter goes through the seventh, it's very good for publicity as well. So publishing a book, because the seventh house are the buyers. So if you want to sell a product, you can do that because the buyers might be more interested. If Jupiter goes through your eighth house, I kind of feel like that on a spiritual level, it's the increase of the essence of your spiritual power. So that's going to be important. And you're going to have to share how you increase your spiritual essence with others so they can benefit from it. Yes, it could be about being greedy when it comes to power, and I want to be having the upper hand, but also it can indicate someone else wants to be having the upper hand over our life. So it does bring in some element of power struggles and crisis situations. It might be just the fact that you want to be having a loan and it's going to get granted. But also, from a relationship point of view, it could really talk about some manipulative games, what you might be playing in your relationship. You might be a little bit more open-minded to others, though. Either the increase of trust issues towards others or the increase of trusting others, and then you show more vulnerability towards others too. Maybe you're going to be inheriting money, but this could be really talking about some benefits somehow coming through loans, taxes, or uh, joint accounts and all those type of things. You might be enjoying to do more research in certain topics, maybe financial research. Actually, this could really talk about the kind of like the return of your investment also. But if you have been struggling with psychological well-being, this Jupiter surely can increase that too. And this would be kind of like a mental breakdown type of cycle for you also. So to understand yourself on a psychological level is going to be extremely important. It might be that your partner is getting a pay rise or partner's investments are, somehow great. But if you have been going through a crisis situation, that's going to be increased also. So in that case, how are you going to step back, analyze the crisis situation a little bit, and then making the best possible decision? Maybe some of you are going to be afraid of mortality, especially those ones who are having a little bit of a Pluto, square Pluto as well in their chart, because that's the mortality crisis situation, and alongside with Jupiter in the 8th house. Maybe you have got issues with the insurance company and you guys going to have to come up with some settlement. Maybe you're going to have issues with the tax office and then you're going to have to come up with a settlement for that too. You can inherit money. And also, actually, it's very possible that you're just going to be making some purchases. Maybe just you're going to buy a new house, a new car. Oh, and the intimacy department. This could be the real appetite to connect, not just on a sexual, but on a spiritual level to someone also, especially those who are single. If Jupiter goes through your 9th house, then it's very much about being optimistic. It's not focusing on any type of petty problems. I'm looking at the bigger picture. My eyes are wide open and I'm looking for opportunities. It's about expanding your horizons. It's about relocation. It's about seeing the world, but not just through travels, but through the lenses of your own eyes. In a sense, what I mean by that is that, I don't need to travel to be somewhere else, right? So it's about kind of using your imaginations, if you like it. It's about intellectually being curious. You might be reading a lot more. You might going back to university. You might going to be finishing your exam, which is going to be a relief, maybe financial relief, actually. You need to be more open to learn. Maybe you need to be a little bit more curious about what I could learn so that I can make more money or I can build a better career. Because Taurus is about building, and the next house is the 10th house, right? So we're gonna have to build a knowledge so that we can have a better career. Also, maybe it's about business opportunity to connect with foreigners, some type of collaboration with others, which is giving you a business platform. Maybe you want to publish a book. Maybe you want to be advertising your business. Maybe you want to come up with some new promotional tactics. Maybe you want to hire, a marketing agency, for instance. Ninth house is also about legal matters, but I don't like the ninth house as a legal matter, to be frank. I think it's more about the moral code rather than a legal battle. The legal battle is more about the seventh house for me. But if we say that the ninth house is about legal matters, you can see some benefits from that too. You know what? Maybe you're going to be just going to a foreign country and study a new language, or you're going to start studying in a foreign country. That's also possible. Ninth house from people point of view actually talks about your in-laws. So if you're having issues with your in-laws, it can unfortunately become more problematic, or actually it can soothe the issue and then we can come up with a solution here. I think the key success factor to Jupiter in Taurus in the ninth is not necessarily focusing on the very small details, but looking at the bigger picture. Jupiter in the 10th, I mean, we can talk about pay rise and promotion and coming forefront in your professional life. But also this could talk about marriage, surely, because your public status is changing, and that usually happens through marriage. For me, marriage is always a 7 and the 10th house activation at the same time. You might get recognized for something good you did. It might be the charitable side of yours, but also this could be being recognized for something I've built and I've been working on for a very long time. And I kind of never imagined it's going to be successful. This time around, it can be. It can be. It's very productive. Most likely, it's a very busy period, or working extremely hard as well. If you choose the laziness part with the Taurus 10th house cusp, unfortunately, it's never going to bring you success. So this is a working hard time of period for yourself. Maybe if you are on social media, because Jupiter is about sharing something with others, right? So it can represent social media. Then it could really talk about, having more followers, for instance. Yeah, being promoted, getting a pay rise, getting married, or previously you might have studied something and then you're going to start a new job with that. Somehow, how am I going to get into the limelight, basically? But also this could talk about having a great mentor at workplace who is actually very dedicated of teaching something new for us. Or it could also indicate that you're going to be fulfilling a goal of yours, which you have been dreaming about for a very long time. Okay, Jupiter going through your 11th house. Well, most likely you're going to have a lot more friends, or you're going to be actually trying to make more friends, kind of like meeting benefactors in your life, putting you on the right road. Also, it's extremely good for success and fame through social media. Maybe that Taurus element, which is practicality, might want you to meet with your fans in person, for instance. Somehow this aspect is really about the ability or the need to rely on your friend and your social circle more. So it's really about networking. Because they might need to count on you, or you might need to count on them, but they can have your back, basically. 11th house is also about your long-term goals, your wishes and dreams. Dare to dream, dare to wish for something bigger, dare to have new goals, because these can be granted for you. Maybe not immediately, but you might see benefits in the next 14 years or 12 years overall. Most likely, it can be sometimes annoying as well, because people might want to give you advice all the time, even when you don't ask for one. and they just keep giving you the advice, and then you get fed up with that. Maybe you're going to be participating a lot more in group activities, for instance. Maybe you're going to go on special trips. I love Jupiter in the 11th house, by the way. It's the planetary joy of Jupiter. In my opinion, even in the crappiest sign for Jupiter in the 11th, it still gives great stuff. I love Jupiter. My 11th house cusp is Capricorn. But whenever Jupiter went through that Capricorn, actually my financials got a lot better. And it's not just the previous cycle, but all the 3 cycles before. And it was a detrimental Jupiter. But it's about, again, in Taurus, it's about solidifying your dreams, giving shape and form to it so that it can give you financial reward overall. Oh yeah, we do need to be tolerate. We do need to tolerate others around us, even though they are actually annoying. Because that's one thing. Yeah, that's actually one thing, which might be the negative type of things. And finally, Jupiter in the 12th house. Well, interesting position, let's call it that way. I think you can benefit quite a lot if you work a little bit behind the scenes or you are a little bit more private. You don't need to share so much with others. Also, you can benefit quite a lot if you are a little bit more charitable, more empathetic towards others, but definitely it increases your sensitivity level too. I kind of like how I would call this is that, ooh, I am cursed. 12th house is the house of curse. So Jupiter here actually can lift up the curse, or we can feel like I am cursed, everything is falling apart. And then we start some type of self-destructive behaviors. If we don't face our deep wounds and fears, Jupiter will be kicking butts here. I find it a very difficult position for Jupiter, actually. But somehow still, you have got this guardian angel sitting on your shoulder, who is telling you that nothing wrong is going to happen to you if you look deeper, actually, a little bit with your fears. It's, Jupiter is about getting to know your subconscious mind a little bit more. And that's what you can benefit from a lot. It's about being generous to the underprivileged people. You can do some volunteering work. You can help others, and you might not want to be expecting something back in return. This is a house of service. So you do need to be in service to others. Another negative side of this, that we can become extremely dreamy. And we dream about having money. We dream about having security in our life. We dream about having a secure relationship. Too much talking, no action behind. So in that case, you're going to have to, act on it. Also, this could talk about diving into spirituality more and learning about spiritual topics a lot more. Gemini rising, you like learning anyway. Why not? So a little bit of a research around that could be very good. Also, Taurus, it does connect to love. So 12th house, from a love point of view, this would talk about kind of like getting into some shady relationships or being cheated on or being the lover just for the sake of having someone in our life. But I think the biggest message with Jupiter in the 12th is to go through a spiritual awakening and breaking away from the limitations what you have. So, guys, this is my take on Jupiter in Taurus, Jupiter in North Node, and Jupiter in Uranus combination. I could have made this a lot longer, but I tried as much as possible to simplify it because there is a lot more definitely to share about it. But maybe when the time is coming closer, then I might add some bits and bobs out on social media. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget about the Ultimate Money course, which is coming up sometimes in the beginning of November. And as usual, if someone wants to receive the slides, then just drop me an email and then I can send it over to you. Just maybe give me a couple of days. And the next video or free webinar we're going to be making, I wanted to make one on Sedna moving into the sign of Gemini. I think no one will make a video about that. However, it's going to be a big shift. So that's what I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks' time. Sedna moving into Gemini, and then we will want to explore the meaning of Sedna and Sedna in Gemini and what to expect from that. So thank you, everyone. See you in a couple of weeks with another intense video. Bye-bye.